I'm Tara Joseph here with Wayne Arnold of Breaking Views to look at the key stories in the week ahead in Asia. And Wayne, it seems to me there's pretty much one story in town, that's China's growth figures.
Right.
What should we watch for?
Everybody's looking for the China GDP numbers and industrial production numbers to come out. The PMI, the producer price numbers have already been weak, so we kind of already know what to expect.
What do we expect from GDP? Is it going to be
softer numbers?
All right, how soft?
Well, remember that there's a sort of a belief that the numbers are kind of stage managed a little bit, and what the government is trying to do with these numbers is manage expectations. So I think they'll be soft, but not disastrous. They don't want to create a panic. So they were at 7.6. I think they're going to come in around maybe, if they're under 7.5, I think they're sending us a very serious message about how bad things are. Now, they're going into a major leadership conference, so they don't want to, again, cause pandemonium and alarm among investors at this crucial juncture in their sort of political cycle. But they also need to make sure that people don't get unreasonably high expectations.
You mentioned this sort of stage manage aspect of it. Are we going to see that number nice and comfortable because we are going into the leadership change?
Yeah.
And does that mean we shouldn't read that much into it?
No, well, that depends on how much you want to read into a number that you know is just signaling the fact the economy is slowing more sharply than expected. But China really does have at least a quarter or two of very, very difficult times coming up as they sort of work through excess capacity and through this glut in credit. And they're struggling really now to find a way to get credit to businesses and to keep the economy going while the export cycle is weakening and the domestic investment cycle is weakening.
If it's under 7.5, is that where markets are going to get really worried?
Yeah, I do think so. I think the markets are already where we're seeing a lot of investors pricing in depreciation in the yuan. I think that they're worried about whether China can really get liquidity to the banks, whether banks will lend, whether they're sort of so-called pushing on a string when it comes to getting investment going in China, and what the outlook is going to be given this political scenario. There's some talk now that the economic leaders really don't know what the fix is, and that's a change from so far this year where we kind of thought there were just two camps with different kind of remedies. Now there's some question as to whether they really know what to do.
Okay, not the only game in town. There is another country in this region. There are a few others. India has inflation data out. Is that going to be a big concern?
Well, this is a bit interesting because India, which for the most of this year has been kind of the sickest country in Asia, is now looking kind of relatively strong compared to some of the other partners in the region like China in terms of the direction. A raft of reforms coming out under Mr. Chidambaram, the new finance minister, have encouraged people and emboldened and made people more enthusiastic about the country. Funds are flowing back into India, and even though their external position and their economic outlook still look pretty weak, optimism about India abounds. Now, inflation is a difficult thing for them because if it keeps going up, and last month it was at over 7.7%. If it keeps that high, the central bank will not cut rates, and they desperately do need easier money in the country to kind of keep the economy from dipping below sort of the 5% level this year.
Okay, so China GDP, the big one, but we should also really keep an eye on India.
Absolutely.